Go ahead,
All
please.
right. Okay. Thank you, Rajivji, for doing this. I know a lot of questions on this new Biden's executive order. So if you want to start with like, what does this mean? What is this new order? What does this mean for us? And how does this impact immigrants? So let's start there.
I can speak from memory, but if you go to my blog, then
Yep.
I can just look at the areas that I've highlighted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just click on
And
my blog link on immigration.com.
there we go.
Yeah. So hit a control F and look for sec.5. Control F, sec,
Six to
sec period dot 5. You see that?
five.
Exactly that. Yeah, just hit that. Okay. So there are some things here that could be really helpful. Some things that I am like, meh. Until I see
Mm,
something come out, I don't want to say, oh, this is great. But it is a huge step in the right direction. Okay.
mm, mm,
So the first part that says within 90 days, give us a plan to attract talent from outside. That's fine. But then again, within 90 days, streamline processing of visa petitions and applications. Okay. That means both things. Both USCIS and State Department need to get off their duff and make sure that people who are now traveling to the United States to work, study, or conduct research. So that means H1s, O1s, J1s, F1s, all these could be affected. And maybe
mm,
they might have to frontline these applications. Now that's good and that's bad. Why is it
mm,
bad? If you don't have your resources streamlined, other visa categories could suffer.
mm,
Okay. So we'll see what happens with this, but certainly it is good not only for people who are in AI, but AI or other critical and emerging technologies. And there is a whole list of them, huge list of them. Pretty much
mm,
anything to do with technology, engineering, and science is covered. Okay.
mm.
Now, not everything, but pretty much everything. So I like
Mm.
the idea of streamlining visa processing.
And what does streamlining mean?
Streamlining means that you are going to get your act together. Okay.
Got it.
So enough of
Yeah.
sitting on your duff doing nothing. Get your
Mm,
butts moving. Take care
mm,
of business.
mm.
Okay.
Nice.
Now, what is more important is it also gives you an inkling of the way the administration is thinking. My own
Mm,
suspicion is you will find getting student visas as well as J1 visas in the critical technologies list a lot easier, and
mm,
especially in graduate studies.
mm,
That's
mm,
my suspicion. And
mm,
what does that mean? That means when you go for visa stamping, your application, just because you happen to be on, material science research, this research, that research, any of those lists, applied or
mm.
pure, you are going to find them. Now, I'll post links to the technology list also. And these
Okay.
keep getting revised. The last revision was, I think, towards the end of 2022.
Mm,
So there's a whole bunch of technologies, not just AI, but AI is one of them. All subfields of AI, machine learning,
mm.
deep learning, da da da,
Data
everything is
science.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Mm,
we come on down. Within 120 days, domestic visa renewal program. And you see what they are saying is visa renewal program. I keep telling people that what we are expecting in 2024 is if you need to extend your visa. For example,
mm.
you came to USA on a master's degree and your
Yeah.
visa has expired,
Mm,
but you went on to PhD. Now instead of going to India to renew your visa, you get it renewed here in the United States. That way when you travel you have
nice.
peace of
Yeah.
mind. So I know a whole bunch of young men and women who want to go home and get married. Okay. I mean, I'm telling you,
Right.
that's a
Yeah.
fact. So I actually have
That
to
is true.
sometimes
That
tell
is true.
them,
Yeah.
I can't guarantee that you will get your visa stamping. But imagine
Mm,
now
mm,
that when you go from here, you already have your visa
mm,
stamping done. That means you
mm.
can actually enjoy the pani puri in your own wedding. Okay.
Nice. Yes.
So
And is this only for J1
hang
or
on,
is
I'm
this
going to
for
come to
like,
that. Um,
okay.
but more importantly, again, I
Mm.
wouldn't say that it's not important for you to get married, but from the business angle of the United States. Now imagine I have a PhD student working in my lab. He or she is devoting X number of hours every week to my research. When they go
Mm.
home, I, the principal investigator in the lab, or I, the head of R&D, need to know my guy is coming back or my female worker is coming back, right?
Right.
So this should apply and would apply. It used to H1, L1, and now they are saying we want to include F1 and J1 as well. Would they
Mm.
include O1? I think so.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
So what Biden has said within X number of days, whatever was up there, give me a plan to get this implemented. Okay. Then again for J1 visas, they are saying reassess how many of these people who are working in critical technologies. And look, this is a little bit more expanded than just the critical technologies list. It says including those skills that are critical to the United States, right?
Mm.
So it's
Mm.
not just the technology list. You have to kind of look at the nuance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, how would this work out? Why is this important? Because often J1 people get stipends, they get paid while they research. The downside is they have to, at the end of their project, they have to go home for 2 years, which is called the 2 year home residency requirement, also called 212E requirement, or they have to get a waiver somehow. And getting waivers can be quite painful. Department
Mm.
of Defense has a waiver program. Department of Education has a waiver program. Physicians have their programs through Health and Human Services and through state governments. So there's different programs, but waivers can be problematic. Okay. So now if you look at the J1 category again in paragraph C, within 180 days of the date of this order, expand the categories of non-immigrants who can qualify for J1 research scholars and F1 students. Okay.
Mm.
Consider initiating a rule making to expand the categories. So because they want to expand the STEM categories, to expand the categories of non-immigrants who qualify for domestic visa renewal program. This is the same. Sorry, this is the part they are still talking about. Somebody was asking me on my LinkedIn page. They said, "Hey Rajiv, are we going to get visa renewed only if we are in one of these technologies?" And the
Yeah.
answer is
Yeah.
probably not. Because if
Mm.
they open it for H1, they'll open it for all H1s, whether you are
Mm.
teaching history or you are teaching, I don't know,
Mm.
developmental biology or you are teaching
Mm.
electronic engineering.
Mm.
It should be open to all. That is my guess. Okay.
Yeah.
Then attract top talent. That's just theory. Then keep coming down. There are some things that are important. They want us to do policy changes for O1A, EB1A, and EB1B. Why is this
Mm.
important? Think about it that many times, if you are an applied researcher, it is very difficult for you to qualify for these categories, which are very heavily tilted towards the academicians. We've done a bunch of cases for people in applied sciences, people who are director of research, R&D engineers in private companies, but it's always iffy. I never know going in
Mm.
what's going to happen to these cases. Okay.
Mm.
What they are saying is, first of all, we want you to start thinking about policy changes. And not only O1A and EB1, also for startup founders in AI and other critical and emerging technologies using the international entrepreneur rule. Now, this is very important for countries other than India. For India, this may not be that important because this has certain limitations, time limitations beyond which you cannot go. But of course, you
Mm.
can keep applying for H1B every year. You're here as an entrepreneur on entrepreneurial parole, which requires you to raise a certain amount of capital, own a certain amount of equity, etc., etc., etc. So this could work. there were policy changes made already by the government on O1A and EB1 cases. Okay, this was done a few months ago when Biden administration sent memos out to the agencies. So this executive order is far more reaching than the previous memos which were sent on ad hoc basis. I don't think the government is going to change anything much in O1A and EB1 policy, but at least it tells us the Biden administration wants the government to look at STEM cases with a little bit more of a reasonable look. Okay. So then we come on to, they are still talking about modernize H1B program to adjust. This is the part that is very important. So that part about, AI, other critical emerging technologies, I'm not sure that really helps us. But they must consider rulemaking to adjust status as a lawful permanent resident. This idea was floated a couple of times. But think about it this way. If this passes, okay, some of the formats in which this idea has been presented in the past is this. If you have been waiting for a green card for 1 year, you pay $1,500 extra and you can file for adjustment of status, even though the dates are not current.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
now, what does that
interesting.
do? After 180 days, you can change jobs. Your aging out children will probably be protected. These are far-reaching implications. And if we are going in the direction of entrepreneurs, these guys could start their own companies.
Yeah.
Once your I-485 has been filed, I-140 is approved, waiting 180 days, you can start your own company with something like this in place. So this really cuts out Congress. Congress is never going to do anything. Okay, because whatever the Democrats say, Republicans are automatically against it. And whatever the Republicans are say, Democrats don't like. Okay, so we're not going to see anything coming out of Congress to increase the visa numbers. None of that. Not unless we, the Democrats, win the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. That's the only chance for immigration to go through.
Yeah.
But this is a good way to find practical solutions without having to involve Congress in it, right? Then, let's see, below that, point F, they are saying, use your discretionary authority. Who? Secretary of Homeland Security, which is USCIS, CBP, and the Secretary of State, which is visa issuance, which is the consulates. So use your discretionary authority. In other words, wherever there's a room for you to decide in favor of the STEM applicant. And this goes all through
It's
H1B.
interesting that they are always mentioning special skills in AI, but then, other
emerging technologies. Because this order, if you look at the rest of the order, it is heavily focused on regulating AI. Okay, when you regulate AI, part of that is regulating immigration to aid our AI. The reason United States has a fire under its behind now because China is overtaking in some areas. Okay, I think they are ahead in quantum computing. I could be wrong, but I keep track of all these news in all of the emerging technologies. Anywhere, metallurgy, physics, biology, all these technologies. And I see there is an edge. Some ways Europe has an edge in some technologies. So USA is like, oh, wait a minute, what are we doing here? This is the only thing we had an edge in. Manufacturing is gone. We don't have an edge in manufacturing. So the only thing we have an edge is in STEM. And we are losing that because of our really bad policies. Okay. So let's see if there's anything else. There was actually one more thing, Schedule A. Keep going down. What happened to Schedule A? Okay, go up again. I missed Schedule A somewhere. So let me tell you what Schedule A is. So they said within 45 days, look for the word RFI. Hit Control F, RFI. Oh, there's Schedule A.
RFI.
Hold on. No, RFI space. Yeah. So this is the one I missed.
Okay.
Within 45 days, the Secretary of the Labor shall publish a request for information, and this is to classify some jobs as Schedule A. What does that mean? Schedule A, if some job has been put on Schedule A, that means it is understood there are not enough US workers for this job. That means you don't have to go through the labor certification process. You directly file the I-140.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Okay.
That saves the employer thousands of dollars of money. They don't have to advertise. You still have to go through the
Yeah.
prevailing wage, which takes 7 damn months, or 8 or 9 damn months. But still, it's a big benefit. Right now, only nurses and physical therapists have that advantage. So if we see some of our jobs on Schedule A, and that means our green card gets that much easier. So there are some exciting things, but
Yeah.
a lot of it will depend upon how the government implements these programs. And I think if I find that the government is not following this policy, I think we should make a fuss about it and float out open letters to the administration saying, this is what you're asking for these agencies to do, and this is what they are doing. So we have to keep tabs on this. Let's see how it goes. Overall,
Right.
a very good idea. Overall, a step in the right direction.
Yeah. And just take one step back. So Biden said, like, hey, he put out an executive order to all the immigration-related authorities that, hey, we need to get together, all right, and here are the things you need to work on over the period of like next,
X
30
number of
days
days.
to 6 months, and now they're going to work on this and then come back with like, hey, here's what we think we should do. Then these changes will happen. Is that right?
Yeah, that's precisely it.
Got it.
So what will happen next is some memoranda will be exchanged within organizations. There'll be meetings. There'll be working committees formed between the State Department and Department of Homeland Security to get their act together. Okay, there might be a request
Nice.
for more
Okay.
funding by the State Department. Things like that, and then all this budget has to be approved. So there's all sorts of things that are going to happen over the next few weeks. The least amount
Yeah.
I saw was 48 days. The most I saw was 540 days. I don't know why 540 days. Is it 2 years? No. I don't know
No.
what 540 is such an odd number, but I saw that number
Yeah.
somewhere. So
Yeah. Maybe it's like a year and a half. But
is it 18 months?
okay. And is this like? It seems like the timing of this is like right before the election.
No,
So
elections are still a ways off. I don't think it has anything to do with elections.
Is it?
Yeah, you see, there are two kinds of people running this government, educated or uneducated. When the uneducated people win elections, they don't really care about what happens to the United States. They are looking into all these areas, coal and all that. I'm not saying that don't protect jobs, but know where your edge is. Okay, and don't lose that edge, because already I do not think that United States is considered to be an undisputed leader of the free world as we used to be. Okay.
Yeah.
There are a lot of issues already with the leadership. There are countries challenging this leadership. So I think what has happened is when you have an educated government, they realize they are falling behind. And as usual, government is about 5 to 10 years behind where they should have been. This is something they should have been doing 10 years earlier. Remember, I told you in one of our conversations that they had no H-1Bs for data science. Data science was not considered to be, and so we had to look at different specialty occupation subcategories. Is this guy more like a systems analyst, more like a developer, more like an operations research analyst, more like a statistician? So we had to put them into all these different categories, which is kind of silly because data science is data science. It could involve components of all these things.
Right. And so does this change if the government changes?
I hope not, but yes, it does. Because now, if they promulgate regulations, not just policy, for example, for adjustment of status, that's a lot harder to get rid of. Because deregulation requires a justification. You can't just deregulate just because you don't like a regulation. So if Republicans win the White House, they can't just come in and say, "Oh, we don't like this." They have to provide some link between their need to deregulate and some cogent policy. It's not just because I woke up one fine morning, I decided this is how it's going to be. And that was, sorry, sir, that was Nero. He was the emperor of Rome. He could do it. You are not the emperor. We can challenge you in court.
So this is kind of good news for a lot of
Yeah,
immigrants.
kind of good news, but I want to see the ones that I like the best, that I want to see where they go is the 485. That's one of them. Then the Schedule A is exciting. And I also like the idea that they are going to be more reasonable in F and J and H1B and all kind of work visas, O1s, when it comes to STEM technologies. Because part of being reasonable is, for example, data science is an integral part of AI. So if you do not understand data science and the statistics and the logic behind how we arrive from point X to point Y, okay, it's very difficult. I mean, you could probably get around data science, I guess, if you were just doing the development work. For example, if you're just designing a neural network, but you would still have to know something. And I think these are so intimately connected. You can't say, well, data science is not really specialty occupation. What nonsense. Okay. So I think it's a step in the right direction. And I hope they should make it mandatory for all adjudications officers to take basic courses in computer science. I'm not saying you become a computer science expert, but do a 6-week program so that you understand what is what at a basic level. Because I feel sometimes that I'm talking to complete idiots. These are smart people. Adjudications officers are not idiots. But their lack of knowledge is really, really poor. I remember a time when I was hired to provide an opinion. Why were 18 cases by a Fortune 50 company denied on an H1B? You know what the reason was? Their job title was architect, and the government said you don't have a degree in architecture. This was not an architect as in building buildings. This was a systems architect. They said, well, what do we do? I said, just put down computer systems architect, and you will win the cases. So, this is a real thing. Okay. The government denied these cases saying you don't have a degree in architecture.
Right. Well, okay, good. I'm sure we'll be talking and providing more updates as these policies develop and change, and we get updates. But this is good. Yeah. Any other final words of wisdom?
Live long and prosper.
You just said, oh, I guess you didn't say about living long, but you said like refuse to be old.
Yeah, I told you
All
that.
right.
Getting old is highly overrated. Refuse to get old.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Rajiv ji. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
And
Take care.
yeah. Thanks, everyone. Yep.